You ever have a student who proudly tells you they're done with their writing, but when you look, you realize they've barely even scratched the surface? Well, today we're diving into a strategy called ARMS. It's simple, it's powerful, and it's going to help transform your students' writing from just done to truly dazzling. We have all been there. A student walks up, hands in their paper, and says, "I'm done." But you can see they've really only corrected a couple of spelling mistakes. They've mixed up editing with the much deeper work of revision. So the big question is, how do we help them see the difference? Okay, so first things first, let's get this straight. So often students think revising is just hunting for typos. But that's not it. That's editing, the final polish. Real revision, that's where the magic happens. It isn't about fixing little mistakes, it's about improving the actual ideas. It's the big picture, creative work of rethinking and reorganizing to make the writing stronger from the ground up. To help students get a handle on that creative work, they need a tool. And that, my friends, is where ARMS comes in. It's a really simple mnemonic that makes this huge, complex task of revision feel way more manageable. The real beauty of ARMS is how it just demystifies the whole idea of revision. For kids from, say, 3rd grade all the way up to 8th, it takes a vague command like "go revise your paper" and turns it into 4 super clear, concrete steps they can actually do. So what does ARM stand for? It's so simple, it's brilliant. A is for add. Did I add enough juicy details? R is for remove. Are there any clunky words I can get rid of? M is for move. Could I move this sentence somewhere else to make it flow better? And my personal favorite, S is for substitute. Can I swap out a boring word for a much stronger one? Each letter gives them a specific job to do. All right, theory is great and all, but let's see how this thing actually works in the real world. We're going to take a pretty basic student paragraph and give it a total makeover, one ARMS step at a time. So here's our starting point. It's fine, right? It gets the job done. It tells you what happened, but it doesn't make you feel a thing. This is that classic first draft that's just screaming for a little revision to bring it to life. Okay, let's put ARMS to work. First up, add. Let's add details like "in the afternoon" and get specific with the games, Mario Kart and Minecraft. Right away, it's better. Next is remove. Honestly, this paragraph is pretty lean, so not much to cut, so we'll jump to move. Let's take "in the afternoon" and pop it at the beginning for a smoother start. And now for the best part, substitute. Fun becomes exciting. They didn't just play games, they battled and built. And they didn't just eat pizza, they devoured it. Wow. See how much life those little changes inject? And just look at the difference. We went from a boring list of events to a little story that actually has some energy. This side-by-side really says it all. Revision isn't about trashing your first draft. It's about taking those initial good bones and building something way stronger. So it's pretty clear the strategy works. But how do you actually roll it out in your classroom so it sticks? Let's talk about some really practical tips for making ARMS a success. One of the best ways to kick this off is with an analogy, and this gardening one is just perfect. It makes the whole abstract idea so concrete for kids. Adding details is like planting new seeds, removing extra words is like pulling weeds, moving sentences around is like shifting plants so they get more sun. It's an idea they can just grab onto immediately. And here are some absolute must-dos for the classroom. The big one, don't try to teach it all at once. You'll just overwhelm them. Spend a whole week just on adding details. Model it for them, thinking out loud as you revise a sentence. Use anchor charts. Use colors, make it visual. Start with just one paragraph, and then have them practice with a partner. That scaffolding is everything. Let's look at a quick, real-world example. There was a 6th grade teacher, Miss Rivera, who had that classic "I'm done" problem. One of her students, Jamal, had a lot of writing anxiety. So she decided to try ARMS using that garden analogy we just talked about. So here's Jamal's original paragraph. Again, just a simple list of facts. But look what happened after Ms. Rivera walked him through ARMS. He didn't just list the flowers, he described bright red tulips and golden sunflowers. He didn't just say it was fun, he showed us the butterfly and told us he felt amazed. For kids like Jamal, having a clear structure wasn't just about making his writing better, it was about building his confidence. And that really gets us to the heart of what makes this strategy so special. It's about so much more than just improving a paragraph. It's about completely changing how students think about the entire writing process. So if you take one thing away, let it be this. ARMS completely reframes what revision is. It's no longer a chore about finding what you did wrong. Instead, it becomes this creative, empowering process where students get to play with their words, strengthen their ideas, and really own their work. They start to see revision as growth, not as a punishment.
And that's the real power here. ARMS isn't some rigid set of rules. It's a simple framework that actually unlocks creativity. So the real question for you is, how will you help your students flex their arms and grow into the confident, capable writers that you know they can be?